Hello and welcome to today's video. The big news of the day, Manchester United have actually signed some players. This has been a long summer for United fans so far, but today marks the day where they've officially announced the signing of former Tottenham and Brentford midfielder Christian Eriksen. And according to Fabrizio Romano, the goat of transfer rumours and news, Lisandro Martinez, here we go. It's got a here we go stamp of approval. Full agreement in place between United and Ajax for package up to €55 million on a 5-year deal. Eriksen confirmed by the club on a 3-year deal until June 2025. Wow. So 2 days ago, I did a video looking at Manchester United and looking at their transfers so far. I had to do a re-record. The first day I gave them a D because they'd just been 5 or 6 weeks. They needed obviously this was supposed to be a big summer of a reset. I'd only all they had to show for it so far, while other clubs around them were signing players left and right. All they had to show for it was Tyrell Malacia. Today they've added quality. What we know is proven quality in Christian Eriksen, and what, by all accounts, is Ajax's player of the season and a very good centre back prospect in Lisandro Martinez. Linked strongly to Arsenal over the last 2 weeks. What was said to be one of the key factors was obviously Martinez's relationship with new Man United manager Erik ten Hag. Now, immediately when you look at this on face value, you think, right, this is United signing actually some quality players. And when you look into it on like a team sheet value, you kind of start picking the pieces together and where the players are going to fit in. Now, obviously, one of the Martinez is going to slide into centre back. You would have assumed to partner Rafael Varane, but obviously Ten Hag came out a couple of days ago and said Maguire is going to be their captain for the season ahead. A bit puzzling from there. I mean, if you're going to go out and spend 55 million on Martinez, you assume he's going to be the player to start. And obviously, given that Maguire was a captain of a team that conceded 57 goals last year, you're thinking, how is he going to fit? Is it going to so it's going to be Martinez, your new 55 million euro signing, up against Rafa Varane, the Champions League and World Cup winner, and they're going to have to battle it out for the right to partner Maguire. I'm skeptical of that, even though he's named Maguire as the captain. I can see after a couple of games that Martinez and Varane are going to be given a chance together at some stage. I've seen Eric Bailly play well in a preseason game against Liverpool, but I've seen enough over him from the years. I've seen enough over the years from Lindelof. I've seen enough over the years from Phil Jones. They're all going to be squad players. So from there we look at it now. What's interesting in regards to Eriksen is, I mean, he's obviously been one of the most creative players. I personally watched him when Ireland played Denmark a couple of years ago. Denmark hockeyed Ireland 5-1 to go into the World Cup. He scored a hat trick, and it's the best ever performance I've seen at Lansdowne Road by an individual player. Absolutely phenomenal. He completely controlled and bossed the game from there. But looking at this, when you dig a little bit deeper below the surface value, you can kind of start to see what Ten Hag is putting together. So there's actually doing a little bit of research on this. There's some excellent pieces put together by Sky Sports, most notably Pete Smith and Nick Wright. I'll put the links to both articles in the description. But there's some interesting insights here. So 2 seasons ago, Manchester United uh, finished second place in the league, and obviously last season they finished sixth. But was the difference was there was a 16 goal difference in the amount of goals they scored from the second place season under Ollie to the sixth place season finishing under Ralph Rangnick. Now, some of the stats behind this: so United scored the eighth most goals in the league, but there were 18 for goals from set pieces. Now, Eriksen, he came into the side in Brentford in the start of March. He played his first game on March 5th. So since that time to the end of the season, at the end of May, he ranked third in the Premier League for chances created and passes into the final third. And 2 of his 4 assists were from dead ball situations. Now, if we go back even further to that, if we go back to his 7-year spell at Tottenham from 2013 to 2020, I knew he was good at Tottenham. I always liked him at Spurs and that kind of team that was coming up with Dele Alli and Harry Kane, but I didn't realise just to the extent of how influential he was on that side. So if we look at that from between 2013 and 2020, Christian Eriksen recorded more assists, created more chances, and scored more goals from outside the box than any other player in the Premier League. There's a graph here I'll put up on screen, and Anytime you're on screen with Mesut Ozil, David Silva, and Kevin De Bruyne, you're in good company as far as it comes to chance creation, and it's important for United. If you've got a side that idealistically they should be finishing in the top four, if not contending for a title, and they finish eighth in the league in terms of goals scored, and you add a guy that's scored more assists, created more chances, scored more goals from outside the box, um, that's a good addition, especially when it's on a free transfer. So yeah, like it all depends now as to where exactly Eriksen is going to fit in. Now, traditionally, what you would assume and how United have generally lined up: four at the back, two holding midfielders, a number 10 in behind the striker, and two wingers either side of that. Bruno Fernandes has occupied that spot in the United team for the last three seasons. Um, that's generally the role that you expect Christian Eriksen to play in. So when you're looking at it, you're like, how are United going to line up here? Are they going to play a traditional number six, how we've generally seen City play with Rodri and Liverpool play with Fabinho, and then two players in front of them, i.e., Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, or in Liverpool's case, Jordan Henderson and Thiago Alcantara? I think a lot of that depends on Frankie de Jong. Now, this is the big thing with United's long-time pursuit or long summer pursuit of Frankie de Jong. According to Fabrizio Romano, a deal has been agreed between both clubs. It's up to the player now to agree personal terms. Now, one of the big caveats of that situation is that Barcelona owe Frankie de Jong 17 million. And I don't know if there's going to be many people that are going to happily walk away and say, you know what, keep the 17 million. I'm fine. I'm on my way to Old Trafford. Frankie de Jong is going to want that 17 million before he goes anywhere, regardless if he wants to stay, if he wants to go. But on the assumption, say United get him, he's been agitating and he's been making it clear he wants to play the Busquets role in that Barcelona team. But obviously, Busquets has held that role for nearly a decade, which has put Frankie de Jong higher up the pitch. But if you have him in that number six role and you have Fernandez and Eriksen alongside each other, all of a sudden you've addressed the biggest area of United's weaknesses over the last decade. For so many years, they've had Nemanja Matic, they've had Fred, they've had Scott McTominay, and they've been round rings around in midfield. I mean, they were previously linked with the likes of Ruben Neves coming into the team, and he's been a player that has been scoffed at as, he's good for Wolves, but he's not quite a Manchester United player. I remember I watched Wolves play United at Old Trafford last season, and Yao Matinho and Ruben Neves absolutely ran rings around Manchester United on the pitch. It was the key area where they just got dominated in the game, and you're like, if Wolves, now granted, I think Neves and Matinho are above average Premier League midfielders. I don't think they're world class Premier League midfielders, but they're definitely above average. They're on the upper end of that scale. And they ran rings around them, and it's like this is a clear area of need. So if you go from that to a world where you've got Frankie de Jong, Bruno Fernandes, and Christian Eriksen, all of a sudden you're going to play and you're going to hold a lot more ball, and it makes it's such a deviation to the Jose Mourinho, the Louis Van Gaal Manchester United sides, these compact, tight, dull, dour Manchester United sides. This is like a team that wants to get on the ball and wants to get on the front foot. Now, in the absence that even if they don't have, let's say they don't sign Frankie de Jong and they keep that traditional 4-2-3-1 formation, even everything that we've seen from Ten Hag in a couple of his quotes during the preseason, and particularly regarding Ericsson, is he's open to him playing in a deeper lying playmaker role, so i.e., one of those two kind of holding midfielders. Ten Hag is convinced he can play it. Now, Ericsson worked with Ajax before he signed for Brentford when he was trying to regain his fitness from that cardiac arrest, unfortunately, at the Euro 2020. He spent a lot of time with Ajax in the youth team there. So he's obviously worked in training alongside Ten Hag, and Ten Hag is convinced he can play that position. It's a key thing as well when he recorded more assists, created more chances, and scored more goals from outside the box. That's quite promising. As is Lisandro Martinez. So there's some interesting stats also on Martinez. Now, obviously, look, he's come from Ajax. He's Ajax's player of the season, but I'm not going to pretend to have watched this guy much, nor am I going to present many viewers unless you're a big fan of Dutch football and you watched Ajax on the reg. I don't expect you to have either. But there's some interesting stuff. So last season, Mane's averaged more passes 90 minutes than any other Eredivisie player, while only two players directed more player passes forward per 90 minutes. So immediately you're seeing the type of team that Ten Hag wants to build. He wants to. I think, and Martinez has an 88% passing accuracy as well. So he wants players that are comfortable in the ball, that can not only pass the ball but play the ball forward as well. And there's one thing in centre backs having a lot of passes, because quite frequently, particularly if you're playing for a team like Ajax in the Eredivisie, you're going to have a lot of the ball. And so much time centre backs will pass the ball from side to side as they try to work a new angle of the pitch or try and move players out of position. But a lot of them are relatively safe passes. If you've got a player in the Eredivisie, only two players directed more passes forward per 90 minutes, and that player is a centre back. That's a good sign of a type of player that you want to attract. It means he's not afraid in the ball. It means he's not afraid to play direct forward passes into players into the midfield that can push the ball further up the pitch. And if one of those players is Eriksen, who, as I said, uh, has more assists and created more chances from outside the box, and they're two of the players in your team. So if you all of a sudden sub out Maguire or you sub out Fred or McTominay and you put one of these players in, you can see the team that is starting to formulate and come together. So this is a good day for Manchester United. Now, where does that put them? Obviously, they're still going after De Jong. They're still linked with the likes of Anthony. We'll see if there's any more movements over the rest of the window, which bear in mind there's still about another month, another 6 weeks left in the transfer window. We'll see what they can do. But immediately, these are two very good signings for Manchester United. And while I don't think it quite gets them into the City and Liverpool bracket in terms of contending for a league title, the third place team, we seen Chelsea really buckle it last season. Obviously, at the start of the season, they kind of, for the first 10 games, they kept pace for City and Liverpool. But towards the end of the season, they started to fall off a cliff. Now, obviously, there was the whole uncertainty around the future of the club and the Roman Abramovich situation. So, not entirely surprised given all the exterior distractions that were going on at the club. But still, they still buckled it quite considerably towards the back end of last season. Tottenham, albeit they've looked like they've strengthened considerably over the season, so they look like they're going to go for maybe third or fourth. And Arsenal have also strengthened as well with the signings that they've made. So it's going to be an interesting mix. Two of those teams are going to miss out unless we see a miracle from West Ham or Leicester City. Two of those teams are going to miss out. Two of those teams are going to get it. But United, I think, have put themselves right back in top four contention. And if this is the first transfer window Ten Hag has, and he continues to build a team in this sort of vein, I know a game hasn't been played. There's only been two preseason games. They've thumped Liverpool and they've thumped Melbourne Victory. I'm not going to put too much stock into that just because I've seen United go undefeated in preseasons before under Louis van Gaal and it ultimately go tits up. I've seen Liverpool get dusted in preseasons and then they went on to win the Premier League title. So you have to take preseason with a grain of salt. But if this is his first transfer window and these are the types of players he's targeting, it's a great foundation to build on. And if you continue to attract players like this in this sort of vein with clear identity and style of play, it won't be back long before United are back knocking on the door.